Stone by stone they bled it out. Chains on wrist, no way around. Fire and sword, yet true survive. Built in shadows, kept alive. Names erased, graves unmarked. Faith held fast inside the dark. They stood firm, refused to bow. Bought the ground we're standing on now. They carried weight, we won't even lift. Traded comfort for eternal rest. Now we hide behind a screen, calling silence, being peaceful. Some didn't start the fire, now just watched it spread. Hands off the wheel while the altar bled. They built a kingdom out of bones and blood. You sold it cheap for approval and love. History screams, but you're tuning it out. They built it up, you burned it down. Creeds written with dying breath, truth held higher than fear or death. Now truth bends to fit the room, so no one storms out, no one's moved. Shepherds mute, wolves unchecked, come for crown, conviction wrecked. Crossroad placed with safer signs, no offense, no battle lines. Liars don't trend, they're bad for brand, so you water down what they wouldn't bend. You call it grace, but it's just retreat of faith that won't bleed, won't ever live. You didn't start the fire, you just fed the doubt. Trim the truth till nothing's left to shout. They stood tall when the world said run. You bow the knee just to get along. History screams, but you're tuning it out. They built it up, you burned it down. This isn't hate, it's a warning shot. A house that sleeps gets taken, not fought. Faith was forged in the pressure and flame, not preserved by playing it safe. If the church won't stand, the stones will cry. If the watchmen sleep, the city dies. Not persecuted, just unprepared. Not under attack, just uninterested. Start the fire, but you let it die. Traded holy ground for a softer life. They held the line when the cost was death. You won't even risk a shallow breath. History screams, but you're tuning it out. They built it up, you burned it down. Ashes don't lie, silence won't save what you refuse to defend. You forfeit to the grave.
All right. Hey guys, how are you? God bless you. Hopefully this, I'm having trouble with this. It keeps like freezing and sticking or whatever. I don't know what's going on. But hope you guys have had a blessed week so far. You'll notice I didn't do a video on Tuesday. I've been trying to maybe, condense this down to 2 videos a week. And then hold on a second. Can you turn that down? And then I'm going to try to go earlier at night as well. So hopefully by going earlier, we can get more people to watch, maybe around 7 o'clock or so, on Tuesdays and Sundays. And in the summertime, we could probably do 9 because this way, nobody has to get up early in the morning for kids with school, moms can stay home, that kind of thing. So, hopefully we're going to look to do that. But, you guys will notice that, the videos that I've been doing, at least the live teachings, things have kind of changed a little bit in the stuff that we're doing. And because you look at our culture today, and there's a lot of things that, we've discussed over the years and whatnot that, this country is leaned more conservative. And, so the world is pretty much at this point, they're sick of the LGBT, they're sick of the Muslims, so now it's time to understand why did we, how did we get here? Why are we here? And what can we as Christians do about this, right? Because after all, we do want the moral fabric of our country, to be Christian. And, you might not, some people might shy away from that. But, when you think about it, we want to be Christian nationalists. Well, they want to be, relativist nationalists. They want to be atheist nationalists. It just that what they do is they put a negative connotation on the word Christian because they just hate God. I mean, that's the truth. But society, America, we're going to live under some of these guidelines. We're going to live under some of these rules, right? That's just the nature of things. And, do we want to live under a biblical standard, which is with objective morality, or do we want to live to a subjective atheist, morality in which, the state becomes God? The state's the one who gives you rights. The state is the one who takes them away, because that's where we are today. Whether we want to admit it or not, that's what atheists want. That's what the LGBT wants. They want society to be based upon their rules, right? And the rules always are, we need to silence the Christians. We need to do this. We need to do that. But again, there is no objective morality. There's no objective truth in any of those corners. And, it doesn't take a whole lot of looking it up, but just do a Google search or do a ChatGPT or Google Gemini, whatever it is you use, and just ask it, what would happen to America if Christians did not exist, or if every Christian in America just suddenly disappeared? It's not a good thing. Whereas the inverse is the opposite. If liberals disappeared, would society be worse off? It wouldn't. Society would actually be better without them. And that's not just me saying it. You can actually do the research for yourselves, with that, I want to dive into, because I think tonight's video is going to be a lesson for everyone to learn, because again, we call this, when culture becomes God. And, we're going to deal with this because I believe this is something that's foundational as a Christian, because this isn't about, just jumping, straight into politics, which again, we're told, as a Christian, we can't get involved in politics. And, I think that's a bunch of nonsense, because why does the enemy get to have a say in how we live our lives? Why does the enemy get to have a say in laws and, all these things here? But the Christians can't. I don't know why Christians have fallen for that lie, but whatever. But we're going to dive headfirst into cultural debates. We're going to, we're even going to let our emotions, right, lead the way. We're not going to do that, right? We're not going to dive into culture debates. We're not going to let our emotions lead. We're going to start at the very base of things, the bedrock upon which everything else either stands or it falls. And that's the thing we have to look at, right? And the question is, who defines good and evil? And the mistake I see a lot of Christians make is they don't really understand how to answer this question. They'll say things like, well, God defines it. God decides it. And ultimately, you are correct. However, to an atheist, to a liberal, to a godless heathen, if you will, that answer is not going to suffice, right? We can say that we know that's a truth, but you have to get them there, right? You have to help them understand why we need God. And again, a lot of Christians, especially street preachers, all they know is homo bad, homosex bad, abortion bad. And that's pretty much where it stands. They don't know how to really engage with people. For them, and I'm speaking generally, of course. They don't really understand the thinking of the enemy, right? They think the enemy thinks like they do, right? And they could just say, well, God, and the enemy's going to go, oh, well, okay. That's not how things work. Right? Because they don't believe in God. They reject God. So you have to get them to a place to understand that and to understand why we believe in God. And the failure I see in a lot of Christians, a lot of preachers that open their preaches, they don't know how to get them from A to Z. Our answer is just, well, God, you just have to have faith in God. Well, you can't ask an atheist to have faith in something they don't believe in. You can't say, well, you have faith in man, not God. It's ultimately true, but to them, they're going to go, duh. So you're not winning any arguments. You're not winning any debates. Then, of course, we have the camp that says, well, debating is evil, debating is wrong. And they only say that because they're idiots who don't know how to debate. They don't know how to rationalize and answer questions. But in reality, when you're preaching out in the open air, when you are talking to individuals who share an opposing view, you're debating. Because while you're evangelizing them, they're also evangelizing you. Because while we want the atheist to become a Christian, the atheist wants the Christian to become an atheist. So we're exchanging ideas and we're evangelizing each other, because at the end of the day, the goal is for them to either get us out of Christianity or for us to get them out of atheism. Okay. And the thing is, the atheist doesn't understand this. And neither does the Christian for the most part. So all I'm simply trying to do is get you to understand how to get from A to Z. So yes, when we ask the question, who decides what is good, what is evil? Who defines that? And that question, that one question, shapes every decision, every law, every relationship, and every society. It determines how we live, how we judge, and how we build our world. We are constantly, the minute you open up your phone or your computer and you go on to Facebook or X or whatever, you are constantly bombarded with the message that we live in the most enlightened age in human history. We're told that our generation is more compassionate than those who came before us, more morally evolved, more committed to justice, and far more aware of the nuances of the human experience. That narrative insists that our ancestors were primitive in their thinking, morally backward in their actions, and ignorant of the deeper truths that we now grasp so clearly. We've assured that today's standards are unequivocally better than the standards of the past, that we've progressed beyond the rigid, outdated morals of previous eras into a more inclusive, empathetic, and enlightened framework. But what standard are we using to measure this so-called progress? If morality is something that evolves over time, then what we call progress is nothing more than newer opinions supplanting belief that today's standards are better than those of the past. Then you have to confront the inevitable follow-up. How long is it going to be before these standards become outdated too? If morality is fluid and ever-changing, adapting to the cultural winds of each era, then the enlightened views we hold so dear today will one day be dismissed as archaic, bigoted, or insufficient for future generations. So how long before the moral certainties we champion now are ridiculed as the embarrassing relics of a less evolved time? If you believe that, if you accept that morality is in constant flux, then how long is it going to be before these standards are outdated too, right? Consider this. In just 46 years from now, not even 50, just 46 years, it could very well be that some individual with a Neuralink implant embedded in their brain, enhancing their thoughts with artificial intelligence and direct neural interfaces, standing before a crowd or broadcasting to the world, shaking their head in disbelief and saying, what the hell is wrong with the previous generation who couldn't even define what a woman is? They'll look back on our own debates over gender, biology, and identity, our struggles to reconcile science and culture and personal expression, and declare us hopelessly backward, just as we now critique the generations before us for their views on race and marriage or human rights. But will his standard be better than today? Or will it simply be the next iteration in an endless cycle of shifting sands? How does this work exactly? If there's no fixed anchor, no eternal reference point, then better becomes a meaningless term. It's just different, enforced by the power structures in the moment. One era's progress is another's regression. And without an unchanging foundation, we're left chasing illusions of improvement that evaporate with time. And that's the simple truth that everyone's going to have to reckon with. Whether you like it or not, that's the deal. So again, if morality shifts and bends with the whims of culture, then no generation can ever claim to be truly correct. They can only claim to be current. And being current, as we've seen throughout history, is not the same thing as being right. Trends come, trends go. But truth, if it exists, has to endure. So the first question we have to confront is this: is morality anchored in something eternal and unchanging, or is it fluid, like the tides of public opinion? If morality is fluid, then today's moral certainties could easily become tomorrow's embarrassments. Yesterday's heroes are vilified, and yesterday's taboos celebrated. We've witnessed this in our own lifetime. Behaviors once universally condemned, now paraded as virtues, and vice versa. But if morality is anchored in the unchanging character of God, as revealed in the Bible, then truth does not age or expire. It stands firm. It's a lighthouse amid the storms of shifting sands. You see, God's holiness, God's justice, God's love, it provides a fixed point, and it's immune to the pressure of popularity or power. See, this issue didn't originate in the halls of Washington, D.C., or it didn't erupt from modern activism and social media outrage. It traces all the way back to the very beginning, in Genesis chapter 3 in the Garden of Eden. You see, the serpent did not tempt Eve with outright atheism or denial of God's existence. Instead, he tempted her with the allure of autonomy, the intoxicating idea that she could be her own authority. You will be like God, knowing good and evil. And you see, that phrase isn't merely about gaining new information or some kind of intellectual insight. It's about seizing authority. It's about claiming the right to define terms for yourself. It's about deciding independently of God what constitutes good and what qualifies as evil. And up until that fateful moment, good and evil have been clearly defined by God's word alone. In Genesis chapter 1, God repeatedly declared his creation good, affirming its inherent value and order. In Genesis chapter 2, he set firm boundaries, establishing moral limits that reflected his perfect wisdom and care for humanity. Moral order flowed directly from divine authority, providing clarity, protection, and harmony. And we can see that. Just look at the world today. Okay? You can see all of that being played out for us. When you look back, you see that the serpent offered something dangerously appealing: the power to decide for yourself. You can define what is good, and you can define what is evil. You can redefine love to suit your desires. You can redefine justice to align with your grievances. Genesis chapter 3, verse 6 tells us that the woman looked up at the tree and saw that it was good for food, for delight to the eyes, and for the gaining wisdom. But good according to whom? According to her own evaluation, her own senses, her own reasoning. And of course, this is divorced from God's commands, right? So the moment that human perception replaces divine revelation as the ultimate moral standard, the collapse begins. And it's now a slow unraveling. It's immediate and profound. It's not a slow unraveling. It's immediate, right? We know in the garden, it was immediate. And what followed, right? As soon as Eve did that, right, her decision there, what followed right on the heels of that decision? Shame first. Shame flooded in as they realized their nakedness and their vulnerability. Blame erupted with Adam pointing fingers at Eve, and the serpent, and Eve at the serpent, and Adam even, God, you made this woman, right? So shame, blame, okay? And by the way, that blame fractured unity. Division, right after that set in, driving wedges between a husband and his wife, between humanity and God. Fear took root, causing them to hide from the one who had walked with them in perfect fellowship. And ultimately, death entered into the picture. Not just physical death, but spiritual separation, exile from the garden, and the curse of toil and pain. So Eve, Adam, they didn't become enlightened, did they? They didn't become enlightened gods as they were promised. Instead, they hid in the bushes, cowering in fear. They did not ascend to new heights of wisdom. They fractured everything around them, unleashing chaos into a once perfect world. Now, of course, every generation, every civilization that declares moral independence from God is simply just reenacting Genesis chapter 3 on a grander scale. Romans chapter 1 describes this same tragic exchange. Humanity exchanged the truth of God for a lie, worshiping created things rather than the creator. And it was not an accidental loss. It was a deliberate trade, swapping eternal truth for fleeting illusions. So let's move forward in history a little bit. Let's go all the way to the founding of the United States, of this country. Because America was never intended to be a theocracy where religious leaders held direct political power. But its foundations were deeply shaped by biblical anthropology, the understanding of human nature as revealed in Scripture. Colonial political thought was saturated with the influence of sermons where ministers preach on covenant theology, the authority of divine law, and the reality of human depravity. Election sermons were delivered before civic leaders, reminding them of their accountability to God. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 9 warns that the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? This profound insight into the fallen nature of humanity directly influenced the design of our government. If every person is prone to corruption and self-interest, then power must be limited, divided, and checked to prevent tyranny. That theological understanding is vividly reflected in the separation of powers among the legislative, executive, and judicial branches in this country. It's evident in the system of checks and balances that ensures no one branch can dominate another. It's woven into federalism, distributing authority between national and state governments. The founders grasped the concentrated authority becomes dangerous because human nature, corrupted by sin, tends toward abuse when left unchecked. The Declaration of Independence appeals explicitly to the laws of nature and of nature's God. Grounding human rights grounding human rights in a divine endowment rather than governmental grant. Rights are described as inalienable, bestowed by a creator, not bestowed or revoked by kings or parliaments or presidents. Now, maybe some of you don't know this. I don't know how much studying a lot of you guys have done in our country and our founding fathers, right? Because one of the things that we hear so often is that America was not a Christian nation. Oh, but it was. John Adams, right? You have John Adams, John Quincy, but John Adams famously warned that our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. Now, again, when he said that, he was talking about the morality of his time. He wasn't saying moral for whatever happens in the future to be considered moral. He's saying it was made for a moral people. So you have to look back and say, what did our founding fathers considered moral, right? As far as human sexuality goes, as far as political goes, as far as love and hate and good and evil, this is all defined by morality in that time period. We don't get to, again, morality doesn't change. We don't get to go, well, John Adams meant, this is good because morality has changed. No, he said it back then because what they considered moral back then is what they said. Our government was created for those people. The morality that those people had are religious people, right? Morality and religion were put together, and that's what our country was founded on. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other, right? So why did he say that? Because self-government, the ability of a free people to govern themselves, presupposes self-restraint. And true self-restraint presupposes an objective morality that transcends individual whims. It's a morality that is rooted in God's unchanging standard. So you remove that, objective morality, and external enforcement must replace internal restraint. Laws multiply, surveillance increases, and coercion becomes the norm to maintain order. Now, anticipate this objection, okay? You're going to hear this from the other side. But weren't the founding fathers heavily influenced by Enlightenment thought with its emphasis on reason and individual rights? Yeah, that's true. But in early America, Enlightenment ideas operated within a cultural framework saturated with biblical categories. Natural law was not seen as detached from God. It was understood as a moral order embedded in creation by a wise creator. So when the other side talks about Enlightenment thought, right, on individual rights and reasons, they're looking at it from today's modern perspective, just like they do from the Bible, right? We take today's morality, we take today's ideas, we take today's definitions, and we implant them into the Bible, as if the Bible, when it was written, the New Testament was written 2,000 years ago, said, well, you know what, you guys aren't going to get this, but in 2,000 years from now, you can bet your butt they're going to get this. That's not how it works. See, back then, they didn't anticipate how we were going to define things later on. You can't go forward in defining things, but you can go back to understand the definitions used at that time. But people don't want to do that because people tend to be lazy, right? We want to say, well, this happened, but this is what they meant. No, they meant what they said. Just understand what it meant at the time, what morality was at the time. Okay? That's the way it is. So you take all that and you bring that to today, right? To present day, where we see the fruits of this moral detachment playing out in real time. We have witnessed violent political rhetoric escalate to unprecedented levels, culminating in assassination attempts against our president. These acts are not only condemned by, but in documented cases, they are met with public celebration from ideological opponents, revealing a chilling erosion of basic human decency. Okay? Again, all you got to do is look in 2024 when somebody tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Right? He was in Butler, Pennsylvania doing a rally, and a 20-year-old gunman fired shots that fortunately grazed his ear only, but it did kill one attending and it injured several others. In the aftermath, right, while most of us, moral, right, conservatives, were horrified, social media erupted with posts from the left celebrating the attempt. Comments like, too bad they missed, or memes mocking the event proliferated on X and Reddit and Facebook, and especially TikTok. Democratic staffers and activists in places like Virginia were caught posting celebratory messages, leading to widespread outrage and calls for accountability. Even some lawmakers' initial reactions sparked controversy, with one Colorado Democrat tweeting something interpreted as dismissive, although she later apologized, of course, But these were not isolated. Researchers documented a 633% spike in calls for violence online the very day after, including explicit celebrations of the near miss. And these people are the ones that think that they have the morality, that they have the high ground. Then, of course, you have the murder of Charlie Kirk on September 10th, 2025 at Utah Valley University. Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA and a pretty prominent conservative, was shot and killed by 22-year-old Tyler Robinson during an outdoor campus event. The FBI investigation revealed Robinson was a homosexual, was in love with and dating a furry. Left behind evidence like shoe impressions, a firearm, right, all that. And the reaction to Charlie Kirk's death was not mournful from the left. Across social media, individuals identifying as left-leaning or progressive posted messages celebrating it, dancing to it. Posts on Blue Sky and other platforms include memes saying, "Do Trump next," or "Elon next, please," with some openly justifying the violence by citing Kirk's political views. Vigilante conservative groups flagged thousands of such comments, leading to firings, investigations by the Department of Defense into military members' reactions, and even Vice President J.D. Vance urging people to report celebrators to their employers. A YouGov poll found that 16% of liberals viewed feeling joy about political opponents' death as acceptable. But again, these people are the ones that claim you and I are the hateful ones. You and I are the mean ones. You and I are the problem in society. I don't know a single Christian that celebrated the murder and the deaths of any of our political opponents. Unless I'm clearly missing something here. I don't know. They always say that they have evidence of it, but they never do. Like, give you an example. When I was down a lot for Louisiana years ago, the media had me come in for an interview, and they took the screenshots of some of the threats that I got, the death threats that I got, and they shared them. Now, of course, I share them publicly. I clip them, screenshot them, and I share them for all the world to see. Okay? But you notice the other side, they say it, but they never have any proof. I'm sure there's people on our side of the aisle that have said horrible things to people. I'm not going to deny that. But where's their proof? We know these people lie through their teeth. Everything that comes out of their mouth is a wicked lie. But where's the proof? We see the uptick, 633% spike in calls for violence the day after Trump was attempted assassination. Now, how about this? How about we go beyond the political stuff for a second, these high-profile things? Let's go to the flooding at Camp Mystic on July 4th last year. This all-girls Christian summer camp in Carroll County, Texas, along the Guadalupe River, was devastated by flash floods that rose 26 feet in minutes during a torrential storm. 27 people, 25 children, ages 7 to 14, and 2 teenage counselors died. They were swept away in the night. Girls like 8-year-old twins Hannah and Rebecca Lawrence from Dallas, and counselors Catherine Ferruzzo and Chloe Childress, who tried to save the children. The camp owner, Dick Eastland, died attempting rescues. And in the wake of all this, documented posts from progressives, BLM activists mocked the children. They mocked them. Comments applied to girls' deaths were deserved because they attended a Christian camp or because they were white, because they came from a perceived Christian or wealthy family, and because their parents likely supported Trump. Screenshots archived on X, platforms like mine, showed phrases like karma for voting red, celebrations tied to the victim's privilege. I mean, this is who they are. And of course, a lot of Christians, well, it's not right versus left. It is. They are the enemy. They sell little girls, innocent children, drowned, died, and they're celebrating it. They dance. They gleefully cheer, but they cry when they're, Trump won, but he tries to get assassinated, and they're like, oh, too bad. They still do it today. And these are the people that claim that you and I, again, we're the hateful ones. We're the problem. Right. They're shooting our presidents. They're wishing for death. Meanwhile, even Biden, whom I didn't agree with at all, still prayed for him. We still pray for our leaders. Okay? Now, none of this was rumor. It was documented across social media and news reports, revealing a conscience so eroded that even the deaths of innocent children could be weaponized for political gain. And these are the people that we as Christians, a lot of us, kowtow to. These are the people that we allow to dictate. I mean, they are so confident that they're out there saying, you're not a real Christian, you're not a real Christian, as if they understand what a real Christian is. And because we're so concerned with appearing loving to them, we say, oh, okay, well, we're not like these guys over here. We're the good Christians. We love you so much that we're going to be nice and tolerable and agreeable with you. But I have to ask a question. What worldview produces a conscience that can justify all of that? If even a segment of a culture can celebrate the death of children because they associate them with the wrong tribe, whether political, religious, or socioeconomic, then something foundational has eroded beyond repair. Proverbs 24:17 commands us explicitly, do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbles. You notice the word enemy, not an ally, not a friend, but someone who opposes you. Even then, celebration is forbidden. Romans chapter 12 urges believers to weep with those who weep, sharing in sorrow regardless of differences. 1 Timothy 2 instructs us to pray for rulers and those in authority, even those we disagree with profoundly. Paul wrote those words under the tyrannical rule of Nero, a man who persecuted Christians mercilessly. Christian morality does not permit the celebration of assassinations, no matter how much we oppose the target. It does not allow mocking the victims of natural disasters, even if they hold different views. We don't dehumanize our political opponents. They're still human beings. Well, the ones that think they are, anyway. I'm joking. We recognize that every person bears an image of God. So now let's anticipate another one of their objections. Extremists exist on both sides of the aisle. It's not just one group. We can say that, but that's not reality. Okay? See, morality has become tribal, rooted in group loyalty rather than transcendent truth. Dehumanization spreads like a virus in every direction. Hatred doesn't stay contained, it infects everybody. But the truth of the matter is, there's only one side that's literally murdering people, that celebrates it, that calls for it, repeatedly calls for violence, and they act on it. Convert or get canceled. Convert or die. That's what they do. Christians don't say convert or die, get convert or canceled. We don't do that, but that's what they do. It's coercion. Oh, you're forcing your religious views on me. How? By exercising my First Amendment right to publicly speak. You're the one that says if I don't become an atheist, I'm going to die. If I don't share your worldview, if I oppose your worldview, then I deserve to die. That's your worldview. That's not mine. You want to talk about force and coercion, but these people are such reprobate deviants, they don't even see what they're doing. They're blaming you for what they do, because the very idea that you don't agree with them, they think that everybody thinks like they do. They don't. The core issue is not left versus right, conservative versus liberal. It's whether morality is rooted in the eternal God or in fleeting ideology. When morality detaches from transcendence, mere disagreement is reframed as harm. And once disagreement is equated with harm, then coercion becomes not just acceptable, but justified, even necessary. Agree with us or be canceled from your job, canceled from your community, canceled from your platform. Affirm our views or be ostracized, shunned, and silenced. Confirm the current narrative or face destruction, whether social, financial, or physical. That is not persuasion through reason and dialogue. That's moral enforcement without God, imposed by cultural gatekeepers wielding power. Christianity operates on fundamentally different principles. Jesus invited people. If anyone wishes to come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. It was voluntary, rooted in love and rooted in truth, not force. He didn't coerce, he compelled. But when moral relativists deny the existence of objective truth while simultaneously enforcing their own moral framework through institutions, laws, social pressure, they're not abolishing morality. They're assuming divine authority for themselves, playing God without accountability. You will be like God. You will define good. You will define evil. You will define hate, and you will define justice. But when culture becomes God, morality becomes unstable, like a house built on sand. Cultural power shifts with elections, trends, and movements. And when power shifts, definitions shift right along with it. Today's tolerance becomes tomorrow's intolerance, and vice versa. Isaiah chapter 5, verse 20 issues a stark warning against this. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness. Malachi chapter 3, verse 6 declares that the Lord does not change, providing a reliable foundation. Hebrews chapter 13, verse 8 affirms that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. Only an unchanging God can offer a stable moral anchor in a chaotic world. If morality evolves endlessly, it never truly arrives at anything solid. It always is in flux, always provisional. But if morality is rooted in God's immutable character, it stands firm, offering guidance that endures through every era. You see, the church has to decide who it fears more, the disapproval of culture or the judgment of God. Just because you slap the label Christian yourself doesn't actually mean you are one. There's a lot of people that are out there cosplay Christian. See people making all kinds of entertaining videos. They're not doing much. I had a conversation with a brother today, and he says, I've seen so-and-so videos of, and they're getting a lot of views. And I asked the question, what is the accomplishment? What's the fruit? Are hearts and minds being changed? Is there any exposition, or is it just simply yelling at people because it makes for good video? See, I can do that too if I wanted. I can go out there and film events that I'm at. I can have a camera pointed at me and make it all about me if I want. I can take clips and upload them and make amazing, entertaining content. But I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in actually making change. You see, when I go preach an event, I don't go there with just because, oh, it's fun to yell at people. No, I go there with the idea that maybe, just maybe someone will repent. And I'm realistic in knowing that most of them probably won't. But the hope is always there that somebody does, or that somebody watching might, or that we can expose something and change things for the better in this country. That's the hope. You know, if we're not interested in simply making content for views. You know, there's times people have asked me to go places with them, and I really said no. It happened recently in November. I was asked to go to Florida, and I almost didn't want to go. My wife, David Grisham, Jim Gillis can all confirm this, because I was concerned that it wasn't about God anymore, that things were becoming social media content only. I didn't want to do things for clicks. Didn't want to do things for views. When I do something, it's for God. And I was concerned that this is the way things were heading. And I didn't want to do that. That's not how I operate. Anybody can do that. But there has to be fruit. There has to be something tangible after an event. You know, whether exposing evil, you know, and I'm talking about getting, you know, when people react, you know, but when you're out there and if a cop comes up and says that the Muslims are more reasonable than you, that's not a good thing. That's not, when you hear that, it's time to reevaluate. But again, when you're full of yourself, and this goes for anybody, when you're full of yourself, you are unable to look in the mirror and say, you know what, maybe I'm not doing this for God anymore. See, that's what happens, right? When you become the moral authority, when you think you know better than God, man, I'm getting, you know, 10,000 views or 50, whatever it is, that becomes your identity now. It's not about God, it's about you. As most of you know, I'm heavily shadow banned on social media. Look at my view count right now. 135,000 on one channel, almost 20,000 on another. And all I got is 11 views on one platform. Okay. Nothing on Facebook, nothing on X. Well, X having problems tonight, they said so. I don't know how many got on Rumble. But the point is that I'm heavily shadow banned. And yet, people still know who I am. I'm more relevant now than ever. Because it's beyond social media. People know who we are because of the fruit of what we do. Court cases won. Drag queen story hours stopped. Pride organizations dismantled. Pride events stopped. That's the fruit of the work. And it's not difficult to go out there and just yell at people for no reason. It's not difficult at all. Anybody can do that. Anybody can grab a bullhorn, you can grab a microphone, whatever, and you can just start yelling at people. That's not that difficult to do, so long as you don't mind being out in public and being seen. It's not difficult. But it's the substance of what you do. Okay, are you doing this for you? Are you doing this for views? Or are you doing this for something bigger? Are you doing this for Christ, for God? Why are you doing this? And when you do this, what is the result of that work? Is there any result? Or is it simply just, for lack of a better term, peeing in the wind? So again, the church has to decide, who do we fear more? The disapproval of culture and man, or God? I see it too many times. Oh, I love you. Look what I did for you. I gave up my time for you. I came out here. I left my family to come out here. Who cares? Is it about you? Or is it about Christ? Who cares what you gave up? Honestly, you think they care what you did? No, but when you do that, what you're doing is you're trying to say, look at me. See how much I love you. You are preaching love on their terms. Okay? When you preach love on their terms, you are never going to win them to anything on your side. It's just not going to happen. Have you ever heard the term, he who defines the terms wins the debate? He who defines the terms is going to be the one who wins. So if you're arguing on love based upon their standard, if you're debating or preaching love from their worldview, you're not, it's not God's review. It's not the biblical view. Okay. You can't win. And look at them, right? Whenever we do videos, sometime, last week, remember on Sunday, what do we have? 10,000 of these liberal retards on here with their, with their saying, you're so hateful, while they're telling me they want to rape my mother, while they're saying they want to do this to me, while they're saying that I should go kill myself. And then they turn around and say, they have the balls to turn around and say, I'm the one who's hateful. And you see things like that. That's why I don't ban people, because others do see that. We screenshot it, we share it on other platforms, we share it to, other people and whatnot. And people go, wow. And it's why things are shifting, because people are sick of that. They're not stupid. They see that. You can't claim somebody else is hateful while you wish death upon them. People aren't as dumb as you think they are. So the only way the only way these people can win is by threats, by coercion. That's it. Well, they claim you're forcing abuse on them. They're the ones who are canceling you. They're the ones that are celebrating the death of their opponents. They're the ones who laugh and mock and think it's great when we die. They don't think we should exist anymore. They think the world would be better off without Christians. There was a figure in history that said the same thing about a certain group of people, that they cause all the world's problems, and that the world would be better off if they just weren't here. And they instituted something called the final, what was that again? The final solution. They dehumanized an entire group of people and blame them. Our world would be, we would be living in Shangri-La. The world would be so much better if these people weren't here. They're the ones holding us back. Sound familiar? See, what they do is they call you the Nazi. They call you the fascist. But reality is they're the ones that do that, because they're the ones who want to silence you for simply disagreeing with them. They want you to have no voice. And their excuse is because the harm we do. Christianity has done more good for the world than any atheist or secular humanist have ever done. More secular humanism has shed more blood in this world throughout history than any other organization. The Encyclopedia of Wars has cataloged every war in human history up to that when they wrote it, at the time. And what they found was that most wars had nothing to do with religion. Only 7% of all wars throughout history were fought for religious reasons, and more than half of them were because of Muslims. Secular humanists, people who lusted power, that is the one who caused the problems. And yet, because we're so ignorant as Christians of history, we let them say things stupid like that. Oh, Christians have caused more. No, it's not even true. You can look it up. It's not that difficult. It's not true at all. Not even remotely close to true. But yet they say it anyway. And even when you correct them with facts and figures and primary source data and all these things here, they don't care. You have to understand who we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who aren't really interested in the truth. No matter how much they lie to themselves, say we care about the truth. No, they've made up their minds already. Therefore, they don't want to hear anything that counters what they already believe. Because the thing is, they just hate authority. They want to be authority. They hate God. They think they are God. It's why an atheist can confidently say things like, oh, there is no God. Oh, really? Can you say that for a fact? Yes. Oh, then you must have all knowledge. You must know everything. Time, space, creation, everything. You must have been there. You must know everything. And if you know everything, wouldn't that make you God? Of course, they have no answer other than, you're stupid, Sky Daddy, you're dumb. That's it. Playground level insults, because they have nothing else. And they think owned because they call you a retard or they say whatever. And of course, it resorts to either Donald Trump, even though I barely ever talk about Trump, but they always Trump. I don't care about Trump. Trump has nothing to do with what I do at all. But yet somehow he always comes to the conversation and it's not from me. Or they resort to sexual innuendo and sexual comments and things like that, because that's all they can think about, because their minds are deviant. They don't go beyond, all their brain is about butt sex, penises, and Donald Trump. Not necessarily in that order. And they call you hateful, mean, intolerant. So are they. We're not. See, when we do things, we're looking out for them, whether they like it, whether they agree with us or not. We're interested in them. We want to see them be better. We want what's best for them. They want what's worse for us. That's the difference. And yet we allow them to tell us what a Christian is not. These people hate God. Remember the Sunday night, I had a guy tell me he read the Bible back and forward, front to back, but couldn't answer basic Bible questions. Things that if you read the Bible, you should know, not deep theological questions, but things that anybody who read the Bible should know. Easy things. Like I asked the question, I said, show me the verse where it gives the blanket, do not judge. I knew where they were going, right? I knew they were going to go, Matthew 7. Of course, they didn't read the whole passage, but there is no verse in the Bible that gives a blanket, do not judge. It doesn't exist. And of course, when I pointed this out and then showed him at the end of Matthew 7, where it says, do not give us holy to dogs or pearls to swine, that actually requires judgment. Every person on this planet judges. You can't call somebody judgmental without you being judgmental yourself. Everybody judges. But the difference between a Christian and a worldly person is, what standard do we use to judge somebody on? Are we using our own feelings to judge somebody, or are we using something grounded in something deeper, something more objective? See, that's the difference. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25 reminds us that the fear of man lays a snare, trapping us in compromise. And that snare tightens gradually, first through silence in the face of injustice, then through small compromises to avoid conflict, followed by reinterpretations of scripture to fit the times, and finally, outright endorsement of what we once knew to be wrong. But if the church abandons objective morality in pursuit of cultural approval, it reenacts Genesis chapter 3 all over again, stands at the tree, tempted by the same old fruit promises enlightenment, but delivers only fracture and fallout. The oldest lie in history is still being whispered today. You will be like God. Every culture that believes it ends the same way, divided against itself, coercive in its control, and ultimately unstable, crumbling under its own contradictions. But the alternative remains available to us, as it has for every generation. God defines good, and God defines evil. God defines love, and God defines justice. God anchors morality outside the reach of human power and preference, and only what stands outside human power can truly restrain it, guiding us towards humility, compassion, and true freedom. And that is the choice before every generation. And it is the choice before us now. Will we trade truth for autonomy or anchor ourselves in the unchanging God? Because the future of our families, our nation, and our soul depends on that answer. And I want you to just think about this for a second before I end this. By now, everybody knows what happened in Florida. We got charged with a crime for disrupting a religious assembly and disorderly conduct, even though we were there speaking, nothing more, nothing less, on a public, open forum. Public, not private, wasn't even a permitted event. Matter of fact, the Muslims didn't even have permission to be up there that day. But regardless of that, we went up there to speak. That's it. We called Muhammad a pedophile. It's true. I called him a power bottom because of the hadith about al-Zut. That's true. I said that he's a scumbag. That's true. I told him they need to read the Bible, that the Quran says if you don't understand, reach to the Bible. Even the Quran understands the Bible is the truth. I said, if you don't like free speech, if you want to go to a place where you can put your hands on somebody for insulting Muhammad, go back to Mecca. I said, you're a terrorist. Go back to Mecca. If that's what you want. That's all I said. Nothing more, nothing less. No violence, no threats of violence, nothing. And for that, CARE, right? We champion free speech. No, they don't. They only champion speech for them. They want everything else controlled and silent. They want blasphemy laws. And if you think they don't, you are a deceived, naive fool. And yet in Florida, remember, it's always our side that seems to compromise. A conservative Christian caved into Muslim terrorists. Because remember, terrorists, you don't have to just kill somebody. Murder is a byproduct. Terrorism is to get somebody to do what you want through force, coercion, and making them afraid. That's what happened here. Terrorism won down in Florida. Because CARE and the Muslims, they lied to their teeth. But it doesn't matter. 50 years ago, it would be unthinkable to charge somebody with a crime for preaching against Islam in an open public forum. Would have never happened. Especially, a conservative who understands and says they appreciate free speech. It would never have happened. They would never say, well, these guys stood there and they offended the Muslims. And I can appreciate and I accept the fact that some people may say, hey, you know what? I wouldn't have done that. I don't agree with that. I don't like what you said. But you know what? Offensive speech and religious speech, that's what needs protecting in this country. We have a group of people right now that don't want that. They want the Christian voice silenced through force and coercion. And in Florida, that's exactly what happened. CARE, which is a terrorist group, through force and coercion and lies, and and I'm not saying that just because they actually lied. We have it on video. They all lied. But what happened? Through lies and force and coercion, they were able to get a Christian conservative to file criminal charges on us for speech. That's where we are as a country right now. And what's even worse, see, I don't have rich parents, right? I never had much growing up. My parents don't have much. I really have nothing to do with my parents anyway. I don't have rich family members. I don't have rich friends that can say, oh, Rich, let me help you out. I don't have that. I'm a disabled veteran. That's where my income comes from. Okay, it's enough to pay my bills. It's enough to feed my family. That's really it. I'm okay with that. So I don't have the luxury of paying, $6,000 for an attorney to help me. I have an attorney to help me because he said, I know you're good for the money. Because we all assume that Christians are going to step up and help. Some have. Well, one has, two have. I got $100 yesterday. Thank you for that. But I'm still like $1,350 short. Now, you would think in a case like this, every Christian would be, hey, we got to stop this. No. Because if the inverse is true, if a bunch of homos were there, every lawyer in the country would step up and be like, I'm here to help. Let me help. Let me get involved in this. I'll do it for free. For us, And this is a case that is important. We paid what we could so far, but like I said, $1,350 more is what I need to take care of this. And I don't have it. And I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm trusting God for it. But at the end of the day, it just shows why we are failing, why we're not winning in a certain extent. Because the left, for crying out loud, these people are criminals. They'll burn down buildings. They'll assault people. And people will go and give their last dime to bail them out of jail. But for us, and I'm not talking me because I'm not sitting in jail, obviously, but Christians will sit in jail because no one's there to help them. Because for us as Christians, we only help when we get something out of it. What's in it for me? What do I get? That's not the standard by which we're supposed to do things. The standard is, I want to do things because this is what God wants me to do. Everybody says that everything they have comes from God until it comes time to actually use it for God. Then all of a sudden we find every excuse in the book not to use it for God. It's amazing how that works, isn't it? Do you have any people in this country right now are hurting Christians that should have their churches or brothers and sisters helping them? A lot. You have Henry in Myanmar. We don't hear much from him anymore, do we? The last I heard from him, they were threatening to arrest his parents. They have nothing. It costs $100 to build a house over there. That's it. And yet, when I became a street preacher, all the donations we had that went to Henry and his families out there, it all dried up. And nobody likes talking about money, but the fact is, money is what feeds people. Money is what pays for lawyers. Money is what pays for the internet to do these videos. Money is what pays for the bullhorns and the stickers and the Bibles, and the shirts and all these things here. Money is what takes for gas and hotels. It's not free. I don't know why Christians think it's all free. It's not. But we are losing because you know what? We don't help each other. I'll pray for you. I appreciate that. And that's lovely. But it's time for us to move beyond prayer. If somebody's hurt in your church, if somebody needs help, help them. Don't just sit there and go, I'll pray for you. Even the Bible says, if you have the means to help somebody and don't, you have a problem. And in the book of Judges, the same thing happens. People watched as their brethren, as their countrymen, as their people were being persecuted, and they stood there and did nothing, and God cursed them. Some people want to know why their prayers aren't answered. Have you taken a look at your heart? How many people in your church can only afford ramen noodles? How many people can only afford ramen noodles? Because they don't have any of the means. Now, some people, let's be honest, some people, it's their own faults. Some people, it's, I know people that got fired because of being a Christian. My daughter at her job right now risks getting fired if she misgender somebody on purpose, which if it comes up, she'll lose her job for it. But she hasn't had, it's not been presented to her because there's no trannies that work where she works. But the point is that she could get fired by calling a biological male a male if he doesn't feel like one. I know Christians that have lost their livelihood and their incomes for standing up for what's right because they thought their churches would help them, and they didn't. They were abandoned by people. They were abandoned by the people that claimed to be their brother. They were abandoned by the people closest to them. And believe me, I understand that more than you know. Some of you that follow me still remember years ago when I first became known, when we were shutting down drag queen story hours. I had shut down 2 or 3, I think, at the time. And, we found out some things, which my daughter's story, not mine. CPS came and took. Now I have 7 children. They took my 2 oldest ones, whose mother was bisexual. Go figure. I got one back in 24 hours because I went down to court and I fought like hell. And we had found out the reason they did this is because they were hoping that if they can convince my daughter that she was a lesbian or bisexual, that I would stop going against the LGBT. And it's documented, by the way. It's all recorded. Because you see, these people forgot that I had cameras in my house. And while I didn't get the video, I caught the audio. So when we went to court, the guardian lied and was like, oh, we can go to court right now. I slammed my fist on the table and said, I dare you. Let's go right now. I dare you. Let's walk in there right now. I dare you. And she goes, wait. And I got my daughter back. Then I was put in a list that CPS can't bother me anymore. And my friend Richard, Mass Liberty Counsel, said he's never seen anybody get that before. But while that was going on, remember, this is the time when I won my personal injury lawsuit and I was paying for everything for a group of Christians, and you can look up the news articles. I was paying for them for everything, their plane tickets, their hotels, their car rentals, bullhorns, cell phones, jackets, the embroidered jackets, not just vinyl ones. I'm talking embroidery ones, right? Because I was so thankful and so appreciative of these people coming out with me. I was praising God for them. But when this happened to me, they all abandoned me. Not a single phone call, not a single message asking, hey, brother, can I pray for you? Do you need anything? Nothing, not a word. Some of you didn't know me back then. So that's not on you. But these people that I bled with, that I went to battle with in the streets, abandoned me. And when questioned, it was, well, I have kids and I was afraid they're going to come after me next. See, the Bible says the wicked flee when no one pursues them. No one was pursuing them, but they fled anyway. And my wife and I were left on our own. Not a single one of those people called me or asked me how I was doing. Nobody did. No Christian called me. Nobody. That's a true story. Some people that knew me back then, maybe they followed me, but they didn't know me well enough to where I would tell that story when I found out, can verify that. And even Reuben Israel said, I'm the only person he's ever met in all the years that he's been in ministry that had something like that happen to them. His exact words were, you truly endured some of the worst persecution with the exception of having my life taken. That's obviously not happened. But someone taking your children, trying to convince them they're gay in order to get you to stop your ministry is some of the worst things that ever happened. Of course, Christians have a persecution complex. Really? That actually happened. I've had my car tire slashed. I've had my taillights ripped out of my car. I've had knives pulled at me. I've been pepper sprayed. I've been punched. And again, that's to be expected. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying that's what we do. But where are our brothers and sisters when we need them, when we need their help? Just prayer. Just a simple thing as prayer. How you doing? When something like that happens, they were gone. So some of you need to look, are there people in your church, in your congregation, in your community, in your group that would like somebody just to call them and say, hey, I know you're going through something. Can I do anything? Can I pray for you? Can I cook dinner for you tonight? Bring it over so you ain't got to worry about it. I just want to see how you're doing. At the very least. We had this guy once, his name was Michael. And, he didn't follow me. He didn't know me very well. It was another brother that followed me that put me in touch with him. And his story was tragic. And it was very, very let me tell you the story. So this guy, it was during COVID. And this guy's mother died. His father was in jail for something bad. He didn't tell me what. But his mother died of COVID, and his little brother was in the hospital on a ventilator. And he adopted his brother when his mother died because he had no one else to take care of him. He blew through his entire life savings paying medical bills and paying for his mother's funeral. This guy went to his mother's church. And his mother, he said, he was going there, I guess, most of her life, at least her adult life. And she was tithing faithfully. Again, I don't really agree with tithing. Some people do, and if you want to call it a tithe for giving, that's fine. As long as we understand it's not obligatory, it's cheerful giving. But anyway, his mom was doing that every week, 10% like clockwork, right? That's what she did. She was faithful for years and years. I mean, the guy told me, estimate hundreds of thousands of dollars by the time of the years he added it all up. He went to the church when his mother died, and he asked for help paying for the coffin. That's it. Not the whole funeral. He told him the situation. I adopted my brother. I spent all this money to do that, paying the hospitals, paid the funeral, all that stuff. There's no life insurance. And he asked for help just to pay for the coffin to the church his mother was faithful to her whole life. And the church said, sorry, we can't help you. It was a mega church. He lost faith. Now, of course, people would say he thought, whatever. But when you're in that moment, it's really hard to say that you trust Christians. The people who claim to be the representatives of God on earth. When you go through something like that. Now, back then, I will say this. People did step up and they gave him $3,000 from our ministry. That was before we were censored like this. We had people watching that heard the story and they sent him over $3,000. He called me crying and he said, do you know how many Christians heard my story and took advantage of it by raising money and kept it for themselves? I said, I have no idea. He said, that's why I don't ask for help anymore. Because he's asked for church, nothing. Oh my gosh, your story is tragic. And they hit whatever. He said, I am the only one that got people to give him money to help him. And he cried on the phone. I haven't heard from him since, unfortunately. But he wept on the phone. I bet you guys would deny anyone. Oh, yeah, deny anybody what? Deny anybody what? Please, deny anybody what? Because I guarantee you're the same person that would say somebody needs to be fired, canceled, that they call a biological male a male who refuses to play into somebody's pronoun game. I guarantee you would be the first one in line to do that. You'd be the first one in line to try to get somebody locked up for hurting your feelings. So when you say you would deny anyone that doesn't deny anybody what? Would I deny somebody food if they needed it? Absolutely not. Would I deny somebody clothing if they didn't have any? Absolutely not. Would I deny somebody, at least human dignity? I would not. Would I deny somebody their job or their freedom simply because they have a different view than me? Absolutely not. So what exactly would I deny somebody who doesn't share my worldview, you hypocrite? See, that's what they do. They lie about everything. Oh, you'll deny somebody. I have never denied anybody anything. Matter of fact, you can see in the street, even people that oppose us that are screaming at us. Do you remember we were in Oklahoma and a guy came in a wheelchair and I guess he hit like a bump or something like that? And this is all filmed live. And his chair tipped over and he couldn't get on the ground. The first thing we did was drop the bullhorn and rushed over to try to pick him up. And of course he said, I don't want help from you. Okay. I said, you sure? You okay? Do you want an ambulance? Even our worst enemies, when something bad happens, we stop everything to try to help. You deny people human dignity in the daily. Liar. If they're Muslim, gay, trans immigrant, you would spit on them. I'd never spit on anybody. That's a lie. Not clothe them, feed them. All of that's a lie. Every single one of those things is a lie. That's what you do to people. That's what you do to Christians. You spit on Christians. You get them fired. You don't give Christians human dignity. You're a liar. Just because we say that Muhammad is a prophet or that Islam is a false religion, that's not giving them human. That's not denying them human dignity. You don't even know what human dignity is. Lying about people, denigrating people because you hate them because they hurt your feelings, that is denying human dignity. And that's your problem. You're using your feelings as the barometer of truth. Oh, if you don't make them feel validated, you're denying human dignity. No. You see, Christians don't need your validation. Our validation comes from God. We're secure in who we are. We don't need external validation to make us feel good about ourselves. I could care less what some scumbag, reprobate, deviant thinks about me. But that's the difference between us and them. I don't lie about people. But regardless, what I'm saying is the fact is that we have people in our own community that are hurting. You have pastors that are driving around Rolls Royces, $20,000 mansions, while people in the church that they're asking them, hey, give me some money, can barely cover the rent can barely put food on their tables. And you're driving around in a Bentley, a Porsche. Do you know Joel Osteen, Stephen Furtick, and Greg Locke, just those three alone, have enough money that they can fund ministries across this country for years, and they still wouldn't go broke. They have enough money to feed people in their churches that need it, but they won't, and they don't. Sometimes you'll see them doing a public event, and they'll make sure everybody knows about it. Why? Like Greg Locke with his reverse Christmas giving. Do you think he's doing that because he actually cares? No, because people see that, and it brings more money in. They see, oh my gosh, look at him. He's not stupid. He knows that by spending $10,000 on gifts to give away, he's going to get back $30,000, because that's how Christians work, right? The difference between you and I is that I actually go out of my way to care for others. No, you don't. You lie about people, even people I don't like. I'm an atheist, and I live Christ's words more than you. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you live Christ's words, you don't. First of all, you don't know Christ's words. You think Christ's words are make sure that people feel good. See, your love is contingent upon how I make you feel. You'll call it unloving based upon how you feel. I have to give you something for you to think that I love you, right? I didn't skip your other comment. I read every part of it. So stop your lying. I just read your comment. Every comment you gave, you're a liar. Just like all atheists. You lie because you want to make your enemy perceive, right? I think you'd agree. You probably call me your enemy. I'm not saying that necessarily like you. I'm not saying you want me dead personally. I don't know. But you definitely harbor some animosity. That's why you made the blanket statement you made. You said, I deny people human dignity. Prove that. Prove that I don't feed people. Prove that I spit on people. Welcoming an illegal immigrant in your home. No, that's not a biblical view. That's not Christ's view. God says in his word that he's the one who sets up borders. He defines geographical territories. That's his word. See, in Leviticus, it talks about the legal immigrant. And in Deuteronomy, the very thing about foreigners coming in, taking over. That's illegal immigrants. Okay. Heaven has walls. Hell does not. Okay. Illegals break the law. Anybody that comes here legally, I welcome them with open arms. Do it the right way. But you don't get to take God's word and twist and say, well, I feel like we should, and that's what Christ is. You're not Christ. You think you are. And again, you're doing the same thing. I get to determine what's good. I get to determine what's evil because this is how I feel. You think you're the standard by which we all must adhere to. Period. Do I think you're going to grasp that concept? Absolutely not. Do I think you really care about the truth? Absolutely not. You could prove me wrong, but I doubt you will. But that's the way it is. Oh, you don't do this. You don't do that. You would deny a Christian and your excuse to be, well, you do it, so I'm going to do it too. Even though you can't prove a thing you say about me, which makes you a liar. And lying about people to disparage their character is a lie. Exodus 22, context, my friend. That's about legal immigrants. People who come legally or who are persecuted and they seek asylum. That is not talking about somebody who illegally comes to your country to take resources. Why don't you read the verse somebody posted there in Deuteronomy 28? You won't, because you're not really interested in the truth. You don't care about context, right? You're the guy that would read a book about hearts and then tell a heart surgeon he's doing it wrong because you read a book about hearts. I read this one verse, not the context of it, so I'm going to assume it's women. Christ was an illegal immigrant? How exactly was that? I already know what he's going to say, and I got the argument. See, they say things like that. These people are dumber than dirt. Christ was an illegal immigrant. How was that? Please enlighten us. I know what he's going to say because he went from Jerusalem and he went to Egypt and all that. But see, the thing about that is because, again, these are just leftist talking points that they just parrot and repeat because they think that they're so wise. They think they're so loving. But again, this guy lied about me, which proves he's not loving. That's evil, by the way. That's not giving me human dignity, by the way. Hypocrite. But anyway, the point is that Christ was an illegal immigrant. They say that because they think it's a gotcha. It's not, because they're idiots. That's like saying me going from Florida to Texas makes me an illegal immigrant. They were all part of Rome, different provinces under the same empire. They were not illegal immigrants. That's like going from state to state and claiming, well, you're illegally in my state when you're from another state. That is a ridiculous, stupid argument that shows that these people don't think, they know nothing. They simply parrot other retarded talking points without any logic, without any historical basis, and without any facts. Now, again, is he going to correct himself? Absolutely not. He'll just go repeating the same thing because they don't care about the truth. They don't care. All they care about is, I need you to think like I think. I need you to validate me. I need to know you love me, because if you give me what I want, then I'll know you love me. Because the atheist, the liberal, the LGBT, their love is contingent upon what you can do for them or how you make them feel. Because their love is all about themselves. I want this. I need you to do this. I need you to give me this. That's how I'll know you love me. However, you know how I know you love me? By doing what's best for me. Thinking about me. Anyone who would make mythology from thousands of years ago the center of their worldview is pretty dumb. Mythology, huh? Tell me about the Big Bang and evolution using the scientific method. Can you prove either one of those things using the scientific method? Christianity is a bunch of lies? Prove that. Prove Christianity is a bunch of lies. And again, prove to me evolution using the scientific method. Prove to me the Big Bang using scientific method. You want to talk about mythology? To believe everything came from nothing takes more faith than anything else. You can't prove evolution. You cannot prove evolution using the scientific method. You're a flat out liar. You cannot prove it. Do you even know what the scientific method is, Mr. Geneticist? Do you know what it is? Because you saying that you can prove it through the scientific method is an absolute and total lie. I could prove Islam's a bunch of lies too. Just read the Quran. Literally. In context. Quran 65:4 is a good one. Gives him permission to marry prepubescent women. You can also read in the Quran where it says that sperm is created in the back behind the ribs. Well, that's not true. It also says that when babies are in the womb, that their bones form first and the flesh forms around it. We know that that's not true. So you would think that Allah, God, who they said that wrote the Quran, you would think he would understand basic biology if he's the one who created human beings, right? You would think he'd know how it works. So you just have those things. But regardless, I've been on for an hour and 18 minutes, and I need to hop off. But I want you to go back, watch this video. If you got something of value in here, there's a recent paper that found a 45 nucleotide ribonucleic capable of self-catalytic scrupulate. Did it do it? Did it change from one kind to another? Did life come from non-life? Do you have anything that shows, right? Anything that shows a kind becoming another kind through the process of evolution? Have you observed it? Have you repeated it? Have you demonstrated it? Have you done any of that? No, you haven't. That's a scientific method. You haven't. Okay? You haven't. What's the verse that Muhammad was? So you have two of them in hadiths that talk about him putting his mouth on his grandson Hassan's penis. It's in there's two different hadiths about it. No, thousands of lives have never created life from non-life. Thousands of lives have never, ever observed one kind turning to another. It's so stupid that you think people are going to believe that. It's not true, and you know it. It's never happened. We've seen things evolve from one kind to another. It's never happened, you liar. Hold on, I got to sneeze. I think I do. So I'm going to pull up the two hadiths for you right now so you can get them and you can look at it for yourself. And you have the Al-Zut hadith, by the way. The Al-Zut hadith is the one that talks about him being power bottomed all night by a bunch of dudes. It said he couldn't walk the next day. You know, he was in pain, blah, 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 all these things here. Where is it? I know I put it up here. I got the two hadiths here. That was the 12 days of Ramadan, which is pretty funny, by the way. I don't know why Facebook makes so many copies of it. Hold on, I gotta find it here. Where is it? I know I posted here. It's the two hadiths that show Muhammad kissed his penis of his grandson Hassan. Muslim man Dallas. Okay. Tranny shooter. Oneness theology. Can't find it now. All right, let me pull it up for you real quick. Hadith. Muhammad kissed, or put his mouth, sorry. Muhammad put his mouth on grandson's penis. It is hadith. It is Prophet Muhammad used to kiss the penis of small boys. It is, I can't read it. It's in Arabic. It's Imam al-Hathami recorded this tradition, and Imam al-Dahabi recorded a similar tradition. It says, I saw the messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, putting Hussein's legs apart and kissing his penis. Related by al-Tabarini, and its chain of narration is good. Imam al-Dahabi recorded similar tradition in his book, History of Islam, and declared its narrator, Qabas, to be good in hadith. Jarir from Qabas bin Abi Zaban, he from his father, who from Ibn Abbas, I saw the messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, putting Hassan's legs apart and kissing his penis. And Qabas bin Abi Zabin is good in hadith. That's pretty gay. Just saying. That's pretty gay. That's pretty gay. Just saying. I don't know about you, but a man who puts his man on his and he's incest, by that. It's incest. That's his grandson. It's incest. Right? So Muhammad was a homo, incestuous, pedophile, who also had sex with his dead relative Fatima. And we have the Al-Zut one. You guys will love this one. Al-Zut. Now, of course, they lie about saying it was about him reading the Quran to a bunch of jinn. I'm like, really? Then why did it say that he was ridden all night long and he's in so much pain the next day he couldn't even sit down? The hadith of Tamim al-Dari about the Dajjal. Hadith about Bida. I mean, it's amazing that when you actually research Muhammad and realize what a pervert he was. You're tired of hearing about Muslims? Well, then go to another channel. I'm not here to please you. Matter of fact, I'll be at the Mormon conference preaching against them April 4th and 5th. Oh, I don't care what you want. This isn't about you. This isn't your stream. This isn't your channel. If you don't like it, then by all means, feel free to go to another channel. I am not here for you. I mean, I am, but I'm not. You see what I'm saying? You don't get to hijack my stream because you don't like it. If you don't like it, you know what you do as an adult? You turn it off. You're tired of hearing about the Muslims. Of course you are, because you probably like them. So there it is right there, you guys, on all the channels. There's the hadith right there. That's a stupid attitude. No, it's not. See, that's what it is. Everybody thinks that I cater to them, that I have to give them what they want. It's not. I actually was going to hop off 6 minutes ago. You hear that, all three of you? Dude, you don't even know what platforms I'm on. You're on one channel. One. And I guarantee you, even if I only had three, it's still three more than you have. Are you ever talking about Muslims? That's not true. You've clearly never watched my channel before. I talk about homos a lot too. Let's talk about Jehovah's Witnesses, talk about Mormons, talk about atheists, talk about liberals. You want to say any more lies? I mean, everything that comes out of your mouth so far, kalababubu, is a lie. But anyway, I got to go. You feeding him? I saw one poke his head out before. You don't talk. I don't talk about other religions. He's coming out. Look, there she is. Oh, they know the food. Is that Opal? Mm-hmm. I wonder if I could show. Can you think I could show him on here? If she'll sit still for the shower. You're a doofus. There you go. There's the see you loser. Yeah, that's how geneticists talk too. There it is, the playground level insults. Homosexual liberals aren't religious. Actually, they're the most religious people on the planet. By the way, I noticed you didn't respond to anything I said to you, proving that everything you said was wrong about the Bible and Christ. I noticed you just conveniently ignored all that. Anyway, but if you did get something of value, I'd appreciate if you guys would share the video, because after all, with the shadow banning and whatnot, you know, the limitations, that's the best way to do things. If you are subscribed and you didn't get notified, unsubscribe and immediately subscribe to kind of reset things. Also, don't forget our website, wordsforchrist.us. We have that. We also have Rumble, which is Warriors, the number 4 Christ. We have Instagram. My Instagram is Words for Christ. Is it US or USA? I can't remember. I think it's USA. No one got anything out of value of this. Sure. Right. It is, because my Instagram, we have 112,000 followers on there. Let's see. It's Warriors for Christ USA. 112,000 followers, 7.5 million people reached. Grifting for likes. Yeah, okay. Yeah, this guy talks like an atheist social media loser. Remember the one guy that came on here, tried telling us he was a scientist, and then we called him on it. It was called it completely wrong. But anyway, so I appreciate you guys. You know, like I said, follow us on Rumble, Instagram, all that there. I post more on Instagram than anything else, which automatically reposts from Instagram to Facebook. So those reels automatically go over there. But again, that's most of my stuff on Facebook is the stuff that's just copied from Instagram over there. If you want to help support the ministry, you can do so at warriors4christ.us/give. We have the credit card there. We have all the links, you know, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, all that there. But if you want independent, it's scrolling in the bottom. It's also in the description of the video, right? Our Cash App is $sign WFC Church. Our Zelle is support@christianjournal.net. Our PayPal is paypal.me/XTRIAN Journal Media. Our Venmo is at Words for Christ Ministry. So we have all those things there. But again, if you can't remember that, it's in the description. It's scrolling. And it's on the page, wordsforchrist.us/give. So we appreciate you guys. We love you guys. You know, like I said, we're going to be going to spring break soon. And then right after that, I'll be heading up to Salt Lake City to the second Mormon conference of the year. Then they have their next one next year. So I'll be going to both those conferences every year to preach to the Mormons. Go back and look at my last video when I sat down with the one and debated him, and just, you know, it's pretty bad. But anyway, again, love you guys. Appreciate you. Again, make sure you like, comment, follow. When the video's over, come back, give it a thumbs up, give it a comment. And then we'll see you guys Sunday night. God bless.
Chains on wrist, no way around. Fire and sword, yet truth survive. Built in shadows, kept alive. Names erased, graves unmarked. Faith held fast inside the dark. They stood firm, refused to bow. Bought the ground we're standing on now. They carried weight, we won't even lift. Traded comfort for eternal rest. Now we hide behind a screen, calling silence, being peaceful. Something inside the fire. Now just watched it spread. Hands off the wheel while the altar bled. They built a kingdom out of bones and blood. You sold it cheap for approval and love. History screams, but you're tuning it out. They built it up. You burned it down. Creeds written with dying breath. Truth held higher than fear or death. Now truth bends to fit the room, so no one storms out, no one's moved. Shepherds mute, wolves unchecked. Come for crown, conviction wrecked. Crossroad placed with faith for signs. No offense, no battle lines. Liars don't trend, they're bad for brand. So you water down what they wouldn't bend. You call it grace, but it's just retreat of faith that won't blend. isn't hate, it's a warning shot. A house that sleeps gets taken, not fought. Faith was forged in the pressure and flame, not preserved by playing it safe. If the church won't stand, the stones will cry. If the watchmen sleep, the city dies. Not persecuted, just unprepared. Not under attack, just uninterested. Start the fire, but you let it die. Traded holy ground for a softer life. They held the line when the cost was death. You won't even risk a shallow breath. History screams, but you're tuning it out. They built it up, you burned it down. Ashes don't lie, silence won't save what you refuse to defend. You forfeit to the grave.